What's up, everybody? We are back for another year of the Chicago Auto Show here at the McCormick Place. We're gonna go around today and take a look at some of the recently revealed vehicles and also the two new premieres that are here from Subaru this year. This is not gonna include every brand, of course. This show is far from what it used to be years ago. It is only half of the McCormick Place, but nonetheless, I'll never pass up an opportunity to get up close to some of the newest cars that are coming out from the various manufacturers, like the new generation of the Ford Expedition, the new Nissan Armada, the Kia K4, and the Hyundai Ioniq 9, and also this behind me here that I'm very excited about, the new generation of the Toyota 4Runner. Obviously very excited about that as a former 4Runner owner myself. So anyway, stick around and check out some of these new cars with me. Hope you enjoy. This is the new generation 6th gen Toyota 4Runner, of course, and big fan of this. Of course, this is a big deal in the Toyota trucks community because a new generation 4Runner doesn't really come around very frequently. So here we have a quick look at the interior, and a lot of what people love is still here. Big chunky dials, big chunky kind of old school gear shifter, this drive mode selector, lots of hard buttons on the steering wheel and to the left of the driver's area, but big updated infotainment screen with a lot of new ADAS technology that is actually standard on, I believe, every trim level of the 4Runner, which is pretty cool. And of course, I think the button is now up here in the headliner area, but we do still have the much loved roll down power rear window, which, you know, they're not going to get away with a new gen of the 4Runner without keeping that feature. So I think they have it open back here. Yep, so you can see, still have the easy access to the cargo area with that roll down rear window. And overall, I mean, the styling I think is ace. I love the way this thing looks. I like it more than the new generation Land Cruiser that they've recently revived. And, you know, it's still got these kind of like safari style windows that are angled in the back behind the C-pillar, which I've always liked the look of and kind of harkens back to the older Hilux Surf models when the 4Runner first came out long ago in the 80s. And I believe this is the platinum trim we're looking at, but there's a number of trims, of course. The TRD Pro returns, as do the other TRD variants like TRD Off-Road and TRD Sport. There's the Limited. There's also the new Trail Hunter model, which I'm looking around here on the floor. They probably do have a variant of that on display. That's the other new like overlanding option if you don't want the full-on sort of like dune running TRD Pro model. So we'll check that out. And then also some cool stuff here at Toyota. They brought some of these concepts along that I think came out late in 2024. This is the Land Cruiser Rocks concept. So this is kind of like I don't know, like a FJ Cruiser reimagined as like kind of a Wrangler fighter kind of thing. Pretty cool. I mean, it's certainly not going to see production in any way, but it's, you know, basically like a production ready concept because they just took the existing Land Cruiser and chopped it up and gave it some new bodywork and, you know, visual flair and lifted it with big beefy tires, the spare tire mounted at the rear. So that's pretty cool. But I like this concept more, of course. Me being a 4Runner fan, this is the TRD Surf concept, and you can see the removable hardtop hanging up there. Of course, this harkens back to the original 1st and 2nd gen 4Runners that were sold along with a few other gens in international markets as the Hilux Surf. So this name kind of harkens back to that, and it's, you know, the styling takes inspiration from that as well because the 4Runner was basically just, you know, a hard-bodied SUV variant of the Toyota pickup truck of the day. That's basically what it started life as and then became its own kind of separate thing alongside the Tacoma later on in its life. But so this is a pretty cool, again, like production ready-ish concept that they surely won't make, but it's a cool little idea that they've thrown together. They got the big roll bar back here and some of the graphics. And again, lifted kit with big off-road tires and off-road kit and other TRD parts and this vibrant blue paint and blue badging. It's pretty cool. Another cool Toyota concept here that I wanted to call out that I haven't seen before. I saw this revealed online. Basically a rally-inspired kit for the GR ADX, harkening back to the Celica rally cars like the ST185 and ST205. But you gotta love this, right? As a rally fan and as a motorsports fan, you can see this thing stripped out for track duty, and the legendary Castrol oil livery thrown on it with the aero kit and everything. That looks pretty cool. And the mud flaps, white rally wheels. Again, not something that they're actually going to put together. It's called the Rally Legacy concept. And they've even got the front rally lights thrown on it. But that's pretty cool. Maybe it'll inspire some builds out there, but cool to see Toyota giving some tribute to its legendary rally vehicles. All right, one new model from Acura worth calling out. This is the new ADX, their smallest crossover, serving as their entry-level crossover alongside the Integra, which is their entry-level sedan. Now, you probably recognize this exterior design, and it's because it's the Honda HR-V, as you probably would expect. Based on the second-gen Honda HR-V, they have used that to come up with the Acura ADX for the luxury counterpart of that platform. And I don't know, it's nothing too interesting. It's actually kind of odd. Acura actually sold a counter model to the first-gen HR-V, but it was only sold in China. It was called the CDX, and that model was discontinued. So it's interesting that they didn't, I guess, continue investing in that for the second-gen. I mean, I guess this is kind of the second-gen CDX. They just renamed it the ADX, and now it'll be sold here in the US, which makes sense because luxury crossovers sell really well here. So now we've got the ADX. This particular one has the A-spec appearance package on it, so you get some of these extra cosmetic goodies in the black wheels. But I'm sure they'll sell, a fair amount of these. I mean, the HR-V is a good vehicle itself. It's just very bland. So, one could say that this ADX will also be a bit bland, but, it looks good, right? I mean, it fits in well with the rest of Acura's lineup design-wise at the moment. So you can see, what else do they have here? They have the new ZDX Type S. So the top performance spec of their new EV that has been built in partnership with GM. So, of course, this is the Blazer EV underneath alongside the Honda Prologue. I think this is actually the better looking of those three. So we've got that here. And then, we do have this new concept from Acura called the Performance EV concept. This, I think, got shown online recently, kind of previewing like a BMW X4 segment EV crossover. I think the rumor is that this is going to see production and be named the RSX, which of course is a bit controversial given the history of that nameplate and being a performance coupe, back in the day when it was rebadged as basically the Honda Integra. So we'll see what happens with this. I mean, it's not a bad looking crossover, but this would be Acura's actual own EV offering from their own platform, as opposed to the ZDX being platform shared with GM and sharing the investments. This would be something fully their own. They have the Acura badge fully spelled out here at the back like Lexus has been doing, so that's kind of interesting. We'll see if that trickles down into other rear-end designs of Acuras in the future. But that's about it new for Acura this year. So there's a number of new updates happening here on the Kia stand at the Chicago Auto Show. First, we have some refresh models here that are incorporating their new front-end design. So this is the Sportage that they recently just gave a mid-cycle refresh to. So you can see it kind of has a front end that is much more similar now to the Sorento. And I think they have the old outgoing Sportage right here. So you can kind of see the differences with the headlight and grille design and a number of other things that have just been given a slight update among technology and software improvements. And then we have the same sort of thing happening here with the Carnival minivan. That's been given a mid-cycle update as well, with almost an identical front end to the Sportage. So some brief updates there, and then they have updated the EV6. I don't know if they have one out on the floor. This is the pre-facelift EV6 electric crossover, but they have recently revealed an update to that car with new headlights and front-end treatment as well. But the thing I'm most interested in seeing is the K4 sedan right here, which they're also going to have a hatchback for. I don't know if the hatchback is making it to this market in the US, but This K4 basically replaces the Forte and I guess the Rio. They recently discontinued that car, so they kind of consolidated their two compact, subcompact sedans into this one model, the K4, sitting below the K5, of course. I just love the styling of this thing. I think Kia has been killing it with their exterior design lately. And I could see how some parts of this could be a little polarizing to some people, especially in the rear three-quarter view, but I think it looks pretty damn sleek. I like when they kind of tuck in the rear door handles like they did here. So you have the front standard door handle, and then this completely flush area of the bodywork where they hide it here. You can get into the back, and it's pretty spacious. I mean, this is ultimately like a Corolla Civic competitor. Looks very spacious back here. Good build quality, as we can expect from the modern Kias now. So here's a quick peek in the interior. Lots of connectivity, some hard buttons for your most frequently used infotainment functions and climate controls, old school gear shifter, but wide spanning central screen here that covers both the gauges and the main infotainment functions. And some nice contrasting leather on the seats on this particular trim. Panoramic sunroof you can see open there. This is the GT line turbo model, so I believe this is the current range topper for the K4 segment. We'll see if they come out with something a little sportier, perhaps to be a partner with the Hyundai Elantra N. But nonetheless, a very compelling compact car. They've actually been selling a lot of these, which is pretty encouraging for a segment that usually has been kind of seeing a sales decline and a bit of a struggle in the U.S. market. But apparently these haven't been out for very long, and Kia's been doing pretty well with them. I see them all over the place, actually. So cool to get up close with it here. And then let's see, we got the K5 here. Yeah, it doesn't look like they have the new EV6 anywhere. But they do have some other things over here. They have a bit of a refresh to the EV9 as well, and that also recently debuted with a GT trim to expand their performance EV offering alongside the EV6 GT. This is not the EV9 GT. This is the GT line. Again, I don't think they have the EV9 GT here on the floor. It doesn't look like it, but they have some other little fun concepts here. This is the EV9 Adventurer concept. Basically a preview of what like an overlanding kit could look like on the EV9 three-row EV crossover. Looks, pretty good, like you'd expect from any overlanding package coming out these days. And I suspect they'll actually come out with something like this. I mean, Kia hasn't been doing too much in this overlanding package trim space compared to other brands. Hyundai has their pretty recent XRT trim package that they've been revealing for some vehicles, including the Ioniq 5 even. So we'll see if they do anything with this on the EV9. I don't think anything's confirmed yet. But this is the real interesting thing here. Another kind of adventure overlanding concept based on something that obviously isn't in production. It's called the PV5 Weekender. These were some other concepts I think they revealed recently for vans. And then this is the adventure off-roader camper package, reimagining of this thing that also looks pretty cool, sitting alongside that EV9 Weekender. So this is pretty cool. I mean, probably doubt more that anything like this will even come into fruition on the production side. It's electric, as you can see with the charge plug there front and center. But it looks the business. I mean, it's like Kia reimagining a Delica of their own, perhaps. So we'll see if they do anything with this in other markets. But for now, it's a pretty cool looking concept. Look at those wheels. They're basically like fully square, thrown over some like Aeroblade green design. Looks like you have cameras for mirrors. You can see a little bit of the interior in there. And then the tent popped up on the roof. So that's pretty interesting. But yeah, that's what we have new here for Kia. All right, look at this little thing here from Fiat. This is not on for sale in this market, but they brought it here for display. It's called the Topolino, and it's a cute little retro design inspired tiny little EV. It's basically a golf cart with bodywork. You actually don't even need a license to drive this thing. You would only ever be driving it on small roads because it has a maximum range of, I think, like 50 miles electric range, and it doesn't go over like 30 miles an hour. But you could be 14 years or older and drive this thing in Europe and other markets where it's sold, apparently. And it's just so cute and interesting and weird, and it's locked, so we can't get in it, but it's just so interesting. It's got this like retro, kind of very basic interior with these like leather straps and stripes, and the doors that are locked are actually inverted. This one opens in that direction on the passenger side, and then over here on the driver's side, it's the same thing, but it opens in the other direction. You pop this thing here, and then it swings open. And you can see these windows, they don't even roll down. They're just these like folding windows here that you pop open. And there's a little bit of the interior. Look at the seats. They're so basic and thin, and they have these holes in them, and there's a manual parking brake, and there's like no frills. I think there's a little spot there where you can pop your phone for like, you know, navigation stuff, but there's no central screen. There's a door pull instead of like an actual door handle. There is a sunroof that gives you some visibility from the top, but this very upright windshield and these retro-inspired hubcaps. And the bodywork itself is like this plastic material that's very durable. It's just interesting. They actually sell this in other markets alongside the Fiat as the Citroën Ami, and I saw a handful of those in the Caribbean when I was traveling around there. You know, small areas like little islands where they don't have to go far. I guess these vehicles kind of make sense. So it certainly wouldn't work for the US market, but it's very interesting to see it here. On the Fiat stand, and you know, that's about the most interesting thing they have. You know, the 500 is back now exclusively as the 500e, so they have the entry-level version here along with some of the other variants that are now hardtop only. They don't yet have the convertible 500 that they had before, just the new generation of the 500 back. And you know, of course, it's the same old deal. It's a little compact city car that's retro in its styling and technically has 4 seats. I wouldn't recommend sitting back there, but it's back, and the 500X is gone, so it's really just the 500E for us in the United States, because we're certainly never getting the Topolino, but maybe we will get more variants on the road, like the Abarth models of the new 500. So that's what's new from Fiat here. All right, so Jeep, they're continuing to invest in their new Wagoneer line and kind of trying to turn it into what Land Rover has done with Range Rover and kind of make it its own like sub-brand within the brand. So of course we've had the Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer on sale for a few years now. And now we have this, the production version of the Wagoneer S, which I assume stands for sport. So kind of think of this like a Range Rover Sport counterpart, or maybe Range Rover Velar. I'm not sure where exactly they would position it if you ask Jeep themselves, but this is the new fully electric model. So, you know, it carries over basically nothing other than its name from the existing Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneers we know, inside and out. So, you know, the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer are basically big Tahoe Suburban-esque, body on frame, large 3-row, full-size SUVs, and this is not any of that. This is a unibody construction, crossover, 2 rows, fully electric, with entirely different styling, much lower to the ground, much less, you know, kind of brawny look, still kind of trying to be a little bit aggressive with its front end design, but again, fully electric. So these are going to start going on sale soon. See, this is the charge port back here. And then let's check out the second row. Red leather all over this trim. Rear heated and cooled seats and connectivity. So some good features and functionality as you'd expect. Big pano roof and cargo area that's pretty sizable, but you do have a bit of a sloping roof line. So again, not as big as the full-size Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer, but you know, you can fold the seats down here and get a pretty flat extended load floor for your things. Although that's you'll notice this is a much higher load floor in the back, probably due to the EV tech that's taking up room underneath the chassis. I'm trying to see if I can find the trunk popper here. And, there it is. Well, so it's not as bad as I thought. I mean, it's higher than some vehicles, but it's pretty good. You don't have like any awkward humps or anything. And it looks like you can, oh, you can set the opening height, but you can't power fold the rear seats from back here like you can in some models. So anyway, the Wagoneer S. We'll see what other models they bring us in the Wagoneer line in the years to come. And of course, it wouldn't be a stop at the Stellantis brands without talking about the hottest but most controversial vehicle that they are selling now. The new generation Charger, which you can't exactly call an EV because they are going to sell gasoline versions too. The Scat Packs are going to be the EV models, and the 6-packs are going to be the straight inline 6 models that have yet to come out. The EV's coming out first. So that's what we're looking at here. We have an RT trim and Scat Pack Stage 2 here with a ski rack on top of it. I actually think the design of these is outstanding. I mean, this is replacing both the Charger and the Challenger, so they're going to have 4-door models and these 2-door models. Both again in gasoline or EV powertrains. But I mean, the rear design, the whole design across the board, just, I mean, it looks like a perfect blend of modern and retro. I mean, especially the rear end reminds you a lot of the original 68, 69 Chargers. We have this new, I think the Fratzog is what they're calling this emblem that they are stamping all over this Charger as like its own unique badge now. But yeah, it looks pretty sweet. I mean, of course, the EV decision on this won't be for everybody, and it's a bit controversial because who really needs an EV muscle car? It's not really something the market seems to be asking for, but it's interesting, and they've incorporated a lot of trickery to give this thing real exhaust sounds using subwoofers under the chassis and the seats and stuff. So it's supposed to still be thrilling and give you that feel when you're driving it of a throaty Hellcat muscle car, but it's obviously a very different execution. So we'll see how this ends up doing. It's just now going on sale after being previewed as a concept some years back. I also really like this front end aero treatment here, where it's got basically like a front spoiler that you can see right through there from this perspective to allow air to just coast right over the hood and up the roof of the vehicle. And you've got this big central light bar up front too for the running lights that looks very nice. Nice vibrant orange color, obviously. So I think it looks phenomenal. And again, they're going to have the gas version going on sale later. So maybe, maybe it won't be dual powertrain for long. Maybe the sales numbers will tell a different story, and they'll just kind of invest in the gasoline powertrain option. We will see. The market will dictate what they think of this thing. Here's more of this interior. Very nice, like ambient lighting treatment here that goes all around and like wraps around the side pillars and the back of the dash behind the screens. You do have 4 seats and feels pretty spacious. We'll jump in one a little bit later. And we have a new concept here from Chrysler. This is called the Halcyon concept. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. A full design study, of course, here for an EV sedan-esque vehicle. I guess, maybe a Model S or Lucid Air segment vehicle potential here. Obviously nowhere near production with all the fancy things you see going on in the interior there. A very minimalist design with the screens and the wheel that is basically just a yoke. And then this door treatment's pretty wild. Coach doors combined with like a half gull wing door that you see open there. So that's pretty interesting. And also they're kind of like swan doors, like Aston Martin. They open up and out to, I guess, give maximum egress potential here for both rows of seating. So that's pretty interesting. Again, not likely to see any form of production if they incorporate that in any other model. And we have like an updated interpretation of the Chrysler emblem up here on this thing. Huge windshield, basically entire glass house there. And, fully electric, no surprise. Again, design study. I love the wheels. Those wheels look pretty cool. The overall design is pretty good. But obviously very concept-y. We'll see what they do with this. They've been doing a number of different concepts and EV-focused interpretations over the last few years that have gone nowhere so far and seen no real confirmation of production, like the Chrysler Airflow concept, which seems to be like on and off again in terms of their plans for it. So, you know, I'll believe it when I see it. Let's just say that. But for now, it's a nice concept. All right, the Nissan stand, the brand that is flirting with bankruptcy at the moment, but nonetheless has had a number of new models come out recently that are on display here that I want to check out. This is the new third generation Armada, which of course is internationally sold as the Nissan Patrol. So we're getting our new Armada here alongside with that in the other markets. And it's of course their full-size SUV, partner shared with the new Infiniti QX80, which is not here at the auto show today, but that is also brand new. So with that, we get the new Armada, and here's a quick look at the massive interior with 3 rows and just huge center console here, just in terms of its width and everything. Wireless charger, push button shifters, updated infotainment and software and everything, of course. Nissan's newer badge thrown on there. And, you know, looks nice, but I kind of feel like this is in the same vein as most vehicles that Nissan brings out in a new generation, and that, yeah, it feels nice and updated, but it kind of just, frankly, looks and feels like it should have for the past several years. It kind of just feels like these new gens are playing catch up with the industry rather than, like, you know, debuting anything impressive and new or innovative in the segment. So, you know, it is what it is, I guess. Nissan hasn't been doing too well recently, but at least they're giving us new models and not just letting the Armada age away. I do think it looks pretty sharp. You know, it looks still, you're not going to mistake the silhouette. It looks like the old Armada from most angles, but you've got the updated bodywork, headlights, grille. Looks a bit beefier than before. Looks a bit more upright. The angles are a bit crisper. New wheel designs, obviously. And here's the new rear end. There's quite a big difference there in terms of just the way the glass bleeds into the bodywork of the tailgate. And this is the Platinum Reserve model we're looking at. So I believe the top spec for the new Armada. But let's keep going here in Nissan and see what else they have new. There is a new Murano, which I spot over here, and the new Nissan Kicks. I think that's actually the most compelling new car they've come out with. Really high quality design execution compared to the old Kicks, which was just like, ooh, just incredibly anonymous. But this new Kicks looks pretty cool. I mean, it's eye-catching for sure. It's the 2nd gen model, all new from the ground up. And, you know, it's a cheap segment vehicle, which is a good thing to have more of those out there in the mass market, of course, right? This is their cheapest, smallest crossover they sell in the US market. They don't have the Rogue Sport anymore. So this is serving that segment now with the new Kicks. But again, like I was saying, you know, the interior is nothing wild. It's just kind of functional and comes with updated software and everything you might expect from a modern vehicle, but it's like nothing that's going to make you necessarily jump out of a comparable Toyota or Honda. And then the most recent new model, again, as I mentioned, is the new Murano. This is their, you know, mid-segment crossover, similar in size to, you know, maybe a Highlander or the Ford Edge, which isn't really around anymore. But yeah, here's the new Murano. So a little bit, you know, you can tell a little bit design-wise and functionality-wise. You have like capacitive touch buttons here for the climate control. That might not be in favor for some people, but this is their newest execution of their interior design here. Just recently got revealed, I think, at the early side of 2025. And yeah, I don't know, exterior design, a bit bland, I guess. The Murano gen that it is replacing, I remember that being a pretty eye-catching design when it first came out, maybe back in like 2015 or so. I don't remember exactly when that one debuted, but it had a pretty bold like V, what do they call that? Like the V-style front end, the V-motion grille, I think is what they called it. So that was a pretty bold direction for the Murano at that time, changing from the previous gen to that one, but now going from the outgoing gen to this model, it's, I don't know, it's a little bit vanilla, but it's new, and the Murano is certainly getting old, so now we've got a new one for 2025. Buick, yes, Buick is still around. The somewhat anonymous GM brand is still here, and they're at the auto show with all their primary models. So we have the new generation of the Enclave. This is the sport touring trim, so because the counterparts to this vehicle, of course, the GMC Acadia and the Chevy Traverse are new, so is the Enclave. So this is their new generation of their largest, most expensive vehicle, the 3-row crossover, also featured over here in the Avenir top luxury spec trim, fully decked out with all the features. And then we've got Avenir variants of all their other primary crossovers too, so the Encore GX and the Envision. I believe there is also a Avenir trim of the Invista, not on the floor, but this is the Invista, their new entry-level sort of slope-back crossover. And I have been seeing these everywhere. They seem to be selling really well because they are a pretty good value. Love or hate Buick, can't really argue with that. So not much else going on at Buick though. They kind of just updated their lineup with this familiar family face and now have the fully updated Buick logo on all their models, which is definitely a massive improvement over the old logo. But otherwise, not too much new going on with Buick. All right, here we are at Cadillac. What do we have new from them? Well, basically the new EV offerings from them. So we've got the Optic here, their smallest EV. Basically think of this as an electric variant of the XT4, which I believe is also now going out of production soon to make way for this. Then we have their, I guess, largest crossover EV here, the Vistic, which again, kind of consider this as an electric XT6, not suggesting that they're platform shared, just the sizing of them. The XT6 is still sold by Cadillac. So this is the Vistic now alongside the Optic, and then also the Lyriq, which has been on sale for a bit and is going to also have an upcoming V variant for the performance model. So the Lyriq's not new, but then we also have the Escalade IQ, their largest full-on EV, of course, variant of the full-size 3-row Escalade, with some, distinct styling around, especially at the rear. A lot more slope-back design compared to the normal boxy Escalade. But this will be coming out soon as a pretty wide array of EVs from Cadillac here, with the Vistic, the Optic, and the Lyriq. And then we also have, not on the floor, of course, the Celestiq, their full EV flagship maximum luxury sedan that should be special order in a limited quantities coming out soon as well. So that's what's new from Cadillac this year. All right, moving along with the GM brands now. We're at GMC, and what's new over here? We have a new Acadia. This model here specifically being the Denali model. Looks very nice. GMC is now putting a lot more effort into distinguishing the Denali trims inside and out from the lesser counterparts that are not as luxury focused. So you can even see a massive front and center Denali badge back here where the GMC badge used to be, which is not on there. So they're kind of investing a lot more in this Denali trim than they have before. We also have the updated Terrain right here. And then again, looking at the Denali sub-brand, we have the new Yukon Denali XL Ultimate. So one step above the maximum amount of luxury you can stuff into a Denali. And man, this thing is badass, isn't it? I mean, look at all this space and like massive, massive central screen with the embedded volume knob, sort of like you might have seen on the Ford Mustang Mach-E. Incredibly spacious 3-row SUV, of course, like the Denali has always been, in XL form, so extended body. And now in Ultimate form, this one starts at $103,000. You can recognize the Ultimate trims with their blacked out GMC lettering compared to it being red on the standard Denali models. All right, circling back to the other GM brand here at the show, Chevrolet. So let's see what's new. Not the most exciting news, but hey, this is kind of interesting. So this you might recognize. It's a giant van that is usually sold just in commercial configurations, but it's fully electric. It was formerly called Bright Drop. It was sort of its own EV kind of fun startup thing that GM had invested in. And you've seen them around a bit, perhaps, similar to Rivian's fully electric van they've been using for Amazon deliveries. But now this is fully badged as a Chevy, as you can see. So this is now the Chevy Bright Drop 600, and I think there's a smaller 400 model that they're going to start selling through select Chevrolet dealerships instead of, I guess, the straight commercial arrangements or distributors they were using before when it was just bright drop. This one, of course, is modified for overlanding, camping capabilities, just to kind of demonstrate the functionality and versatility of the van. Yeah, I mean, hey, it's very similar. Look at just the overall like frame of this rear end compared to what you might see on the Rivian vans. It looks very similar. So I'm sure it'll do well in the commercial space, and it's nice to see them investing in something fully electric and fully new to kind of compete with, you know, the Transit and the Sprinter, which also have their own electric variants now, alongside also the Ram ProMaster has an EV variant that has finally been started to go on sale in the US alongside the European counterparts. So yeah, new van from Chevy. Otherwise, you know, the usual EV stuff is happening here, right? The Silverado EV, the Blazer EV, the Equinox EV, which has just started to hit customers' driveways. I've started to see a few of these around myself. A little bit smaller than the Blazer EV. And there's the RST trim of the Silverado EV. We also have refreshed Tahoe and Suburban models that are lurking over there, just kind of a nip and tuck on the exterior and other features. And then, of course, we do have the Corvette ZR1 that is, you know, not a debut vehicle. That came out and made a storm already several months back. But we can take a look at it over here. Of course, this is a cutout model showing some of the engineering for the platform and the engine and everything. And then we've got the actual production version here with pretty bold navy, or I don't know, off blue livery and rim color. Very, I mean, God, look at that rear wing. That is just wild. I mean, that's basically a GT3 wing right on the back of this thing. But man, you know, truly groundbreaking American performance vehicle here with 1,084 horsepower coming from the mid-engine V8, and it's twin turbocharged, of course. And you've got the frunk is gone for that air inlet design you see there with carbon fiber surrounding it. And you can, I think, still get the ZTK package on these for even more aero, like the canards and the massive wing and the diffuser and all sorts of fancy bits. But this thing is just wild. I mean, when they announced the performance stats of this thing, it just blew everyone away. For the starting price, I think, is like around 175 grand. And I mean, that, you know, big chunk of change, obviously, but put that up against the cost of comparable performance mid-engine rivals from Europe, and this starts to look like a really compelling value. So it's just wild to see how far the ZR1 has come in this particular segment and kind of holding the torch for pinnacle American performance vehicles. Okay, so new at Ford. Honestly, the product I'm most excited to check out is this, the new generation of the Expedition full-size 3-row body-on-frame SUV. Particularly this one here is in the Tremor trim, which is now available after making its debut on their trucks like the F-150, the Ranger, and the Maverick. We previously had an Expedition Timberland model. Don't think that's coming back for the new gen because now we have the Tremor. So they've kind of simplified their overlanding trim model offerings at Ford. And you can, of course, recognize the Tremor with all of its different gold accents there in the front bumper, the one little notch in the spoke on the wheels, and the badging. Interior as well has Tremor on the seats and all the yellow stitching. Very nice. Overall, fantastic new modernization of the Expedition platform. Full-size 3-row, of course, with captain chairs in the back, plenty of space. What most people are talking about with this car, however, is the new rear end that features a split tailgate that we can power open. You'll see there, kind of like a Range Rover, and then you press the other power button there to lower the second half of the power tailgate. And then you've got a number of different features in here. One little thing I like is there's a little spot for a cup there. On either side, they say you can put your little cups there while you're tailgating. And then you can, I'm not going to demonstrate all this now because it requires a lot of different moving around with multiple hands, but you can sort of flip this up into the cargo area and use it as a table. You can also flip it forward and kind of have it as a bench back so that you can sit on the tailgate and lean against that. And then there's all the usual stuff you'd expect. Lots of connectivity back here. You have these little tailgate lights that you can pop on and off if you're hanging out with the tailgate open. And then you can power fold down and up both rows of seats. So you can do, at least, let's see if it works. You have to hold. Maybe it has to be in a certain position. Well, there is a button there for 2L and 2R, and then there's the third row button here that you can push to put down the third row. Maybe you have to do that first. I don't know. It might get kicked back up because there's not enough room. Yep. But anyway, lots of functionality in the rear end, and cool to see the functionality that they've built in here in some new interesting ways with the split folding tailgate that has become a pretty popular feature among overlanders especially. So let's just close up that power tailgate again. And you can see the updated rear end design. And let's again jump into the front interior a little bit. Very interesting shape to the steering wheel. Not quite a circle, bit of an oval wheel. But here's all the different hard buttons there. You still have Ford's rotary dial shifter for your gears. What I like about the implementation here on the interior is with the infotainment especially, they have this main large front touchscreen that you can use for your primary functions while you're driving around, or of course your passenger. But then they've got this large sort of all-encompassing display tucked in behind the dash, quite far away. That's not a touchscreen. You're never going to be touching that, obviously. So that's your gauge cluster information, but also a lot of other configurable infotainment-based information that you can, push up to that screen and kind of have it in your primary view when it's just kind of running. So that's pretty nice. And then there's a look at the rear. Massive front center console, of course. Looks like you can slide the entire thing forward. Oh, there's a button for it, so it's not going to work because the car's not on. But yeah, you can slide that back and forth. You've got wireless charging in here. Really comfortable, large bucket seats, pano roof. So yeah, the Expedition, it's all new. The Timberland starts at around 82 grand. So, it's gotten up there in price alongside also the Lincoln Navigator, which has been given a new generation too. The Navigator's not at this show in Chicago this year, but you can get a look at the new Expedition. Here's something new and kind of interesting from Ford. This is the Maverick Lobo, which is a new trim, basically appearance package for the Maverick that kind of turns it into what you might refer to as like a street truck. So while overlanding and off-roading and Raptor variants are all the rage these days, Ford decided to give the Maverick, being its smallest pickup truck in the US, a little bit of a street performance option here with the Lobo. So you can see distinctive styling all around and these unique sort of like aero dish wheels that it can come with on this vibrant paint. So it's kind of interesting. I used to really like some of those street trucks they sold back in the day, like the Toyota Tacoma X-Runner that also came in a similar shade of blue. And then of course everyone loves the GMC Cyclone that kind of kick-started that whole craze. So interesting to see Ford trying something new here. They've been experimenting a little bit with different packages and trims for the Maverick in different markets. They also have something called the MSRT sold in certain European markets that's kind of a similar situation as this Lobo, but actually has, I think, some performance add-ons included with the appearance changes. And then we also have, of course, the Tremor trim of the Maverick here as the sort of more lifted overlanding friendly variant that is sold alongside the other Ford Tremor models in their pickup range and with the new Expedition. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how many of these we see around, but I am a fan of weird little quirky things that don't always make a ton of sense. So we'll see what Ford ends up doing with this Maverick Lobo. All right, so new at the Hyundai stand this year, their hottest new EV product here, the Ioniq 9. So fully electric 3-row EV counterpart to the Kia EV9. And I must say, I think this design execution looks exceptional. This is the pre-production model, so it's locked. We can't see too much about the interior, but man, it just looks great. It's a super sleek design. Something about this rear pinch here on the after the C-pillar, that silhouette kind of reminds me of the first-gen Infiniti QX56. Something about this rear hip here above the wheel arch reminds me of that. But I think it's really sleek. I love this pixelated light design that they're keeping consistent with the Ioniq 5N, or the Ioniq 5 in general, with the kind of full border here of lights. You can see that one portion is like the third brake light probably, or maybe all of it, and then the rear lighting on the sides. It's a quick peek of the interior. And then we've got similar sleek front end with the lighting, the pixelated light bar running across the front there. So this is now Hyundai's 4th EV in the US market that will be coming out soon and sold alongside the Ioniq 6 sedan and the Ioniq 5, which we have the N model of sitting over there. And then there's also technically the Kona Electric, which I don't know if they have that on the floor this year. I don't think this one here is the electric, but yeah, so they've got 4 EVs now in this market. And then what else? We've got a refreshed Tucson, again, counterpart to the Kia Sportage. So since that got a refresh, so did the Tucson. Grille, headlights, bumper, you know the drill, nothing crazy. Still the same Tucson that I think is aging pretty well, nice design. Still got all those funky creases in the doors and everything, and the very distinctive rear taillights. So that's the Tucson, and then also refreshed alongside the Santa Cruz, given that it's a platform share situation. They're kind of sport utility truck. So this is the new Santa Cruz, and this is actually the XRT model, Hyundai's new sub trim, I guess, for their overlanding models. They're also going to have that on the Ioniq 5 and the Santa Fe, I believe. So you see it here on the Santa Cruz. And again, just updated kind of around the front and back, a little bit more aggressive in general than the Tucson. Really like that lighting design with the way it's like almost like Tetris bricks for the running lights. Very cool. And then what else? Yeah, I don't think they have the Kona Electric, but then we've got the Ioniq 5 N model, of course, the performance variant of their crossover EV that they market as a crossover, but let's be honest, this is a hot hatch. I love hot hatches, and this looks exactly like that. I don't really care that it's electric, but it's got the very highly acclaimed, but also very controversial configuration options in this car where you can freely customize your engine exhaust and transmission noises to simulate a gasoline performance vehicle or have it be completely silent like a normal EV. It's entirely up to you. I think that choice is pretty cool, and it's been highly acclaimed so far from other automotive enthusiasts and journalists. I haven't driven one myself yet, but you gotta love them trying new things for performance EVs, which are frequently criticized for being kind of a segment lacking emotion in vehicles that people want to feel, you know, a connection to beyond just complete silence. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, that is everything new here at the Hyundai stand at Chicago Auto Show 2025. All right, so what's new at the Volkswagen stand this year? Well, we have just some new crossovers. Refreshed Volkswagen Taos, or as I call it, the Taos. So you have a mid-cycle refresh on this popular compact crossover that has been quite popular. I see these around a lot. So we've got a new model, nothing too crazy. And then we've got maybe more impressive is the new generation of the Volkswagen Tiguan. All new 3rd gen model here for the US market that you can see with updated styling corresponding with the rest of VW's products. And then the Atlas and Atlas Cross Sport models here have also been refreshed. And of course we have the fully electric ID Buzz that we saw at last year's show, now finally making it into customers' hands here in the US market in the shorter wheelbase passenger van configuration that you see here. All the fun, cute retro styling from the VW bus like you'd expect in the funky two-tone colors. So there's our ID Buzz. The Jetta has also been refreshed here in GLI trim. You can see an update on the current generation here for new front-end design, lighting, the usual treatment. And then right next to VW we have BMW, or excuse me, right next to Volkswagen we have BMW. So the new X3, brand new generation here on display with some pretty interesting design changes, very different from the outgoing model. A lot softer lines here and still pretty big kidney grille design with the lighting border that you see. Not sure how I feel about this one quite yet. I do like it more than the outgoing X3. I think it's a little bit more distinct. Some smooth lines on it again. Brand new interior with a curved screen. And then the rear end design I particularly like. It kind of looks almost like wagony a little bit. This is the M50 model, the current highest output version of the X3 you can get. They haven't yet confirmed if there will be a new generation of the X3M. I assume there will be, because why wouldn't they? They sell relatively well. But for now we have this as the new X3. This is kind of ushering in a new and upcoming design era for BMW, referred to as the new class or new A class, however you pronounce it, which should also be making its way into the next generation of the 3 Series that we're going to see in due time. And what else is new? I mean, we have the new M5, the fat as a pig, heaviest ever M5 that everyone loves to throw shade at, which, you know, maybe for good reason. I don't think it's also very attractive. Looks are subjective, but, you know, it's a new M5. It's a milestone moment for one of the flagship performance vehicles from BMW that's going to be also now available in the touring model to combat the R6 Avant and hopefully a new generation of the E63 wagon from Mercedes-Benz. We shall see about that. We don't have the touring model out on the floor here at Chicago, but we can take a look at the sedan model. And again, get close on the interior here with their new curved screens and all the ambient lighting and lots of different capacitive touch buttons on the interior. And here's a look at the front end. Again, you have that lighting border around the front kidney grills like you saw in the X3. And yeah, there we have it, the new M5 and X3 from BMW. Polestar, the quirky electric sub-brand of Volvo, or I guess Geely, they're Chinese owners. But they've got some new stuff here this year. We have, of course, the Polestar 2 electric sedan-ish lifted sedan crossover thing they've been selling. Now we have the Polestar 3, their, I guess, mid-size-ish crossover, fully electric, of course, again, that is now going on sale. I've already seen a few of these out on the road. They look very nice. Here's a closer look at the exterior design. Very narrow rear window there, kind of a slope back design overall. But, you know, of course, bigger than the 2. Looks very nice. And then we have the upcoming model here, the Polestar 4, more or less, I guess, kind of a combination of the 2. It's like you get the more compact, sort of almost sedan-ish profile of the 2 mixed with the more crossover-oriented versatility of the 3. So here's the 4, and it's most notable for its lack of rear window there. You can see it's just straight bodywork, and then the rear roof glass there that's making up the panoramic roof. So, you know, you get visibility through your camera in the rearview mirror as opposed to a physical mirror. Some people might find that unnecessary and annoying, but that's what they've done. You can also see side cameras there below the typical physical mirrors to give you additional camera angles inside the vehicle with your array of safety features and cameras. So there's the Polestar 4. Really like the looks, the overall design that they're displaying on these Polestar vehicles. They're, you know, very niche, but I think they're pretty cool. I especially like the aero treatment, similar to the Charger almost. They have this like pass-through aero area here in the front end design, almost making a front spoiler that allows air to channel in between those panels as it goes up the hood and the rest of the vehicle to make it as slippery as possible for maximum electric range. So there's a little bit about Polestar at the Chicago Auto Show. And we've also got Lucid's newest EV offering here. Adding on to the success of their Air sedan, we have the Gravity 3-row electric SUV to go up against the Rivian R1S and the Kia EV9 and Hyundai Ioniq 9 and other fully electric 3-row crossovers hitting the market now. So it's got Lucid's typical design language here with a full front trunk, as you can see, that even has like a little bit of a seat back situation here where you can sit in it. That will protect your feet and your legs from hitting the bumper, and there you got a little bit of a seat back. So that's kind of interesting. And then you've got very sleek design, very similar to the Air. You've got this rear, almost like clamshell tailgate design here, which is kind of interesting. The entire bodywork really just opens up for like a full like portal access here. And they've got some secondary lighting to take over for regulatory purposes when it is open. But that's a very cool design. You don't often see there with the way that's open. But very nice vehicle, of course, all of Lucid's cutting-edge software that has been pretty well received, as well as their build quality and just overall design. I mean, these things have been not really finding a ton of buyers and depreciating a lot, so it'll be interesting to see how the Gravity does. It almost kind of has a minivan-ish profile. It's very low and very streamlined, and it has traditional opening doors, not sliding doors, of course. You could almost say it's like an electric interpretation of the old Mercedes R-Class, at least in silhouette. It kind of reminds me of that a bit. So there you go. And then you got the little California Bear logos down there in the wheels, like you've seen on other Lucids. If you've been inside them, they like to be proud of their California-born heritage there for the company. So there's the Gravity alongside the Air sedan, of course. All right, so mentioned two new vehicles from Subaru premiering here at the Chicago Auto Show. What are they? Well, they're basically trim levels, nothing too crazy that we haven't seen before. Of course, there is the new generation of the Forester, which means we now have two new additions. The return of the Subaru Wilderness overlanding trim here in its famous blue paint and gold amberish trim and badging. So people love these Wilderness brands, no surprise, being the overland focus models, and we see it return here for the Forester, which is actually where it all started before being presented also in the Outback and Crosstrek Wilderness models. So we have that premiering alongside the new Forester Hybrid, which some people are doing some content over here on, so I'm not going to get too close and get in their way, but there is the new hybrid for the Forester, no surprise, competing with RAV4 hybrids, CRV hybrids, and the usual mixture of hybrid crossovers in that segment. And of course, it wouldn't be a stop at the auto show without a quick visit to the supercar gallery here, presented from Perillo and other local dealership partners here in Chicago. So we've got everything from their showroom floor, basically some Maseratis here with the new Grand Cabrio Trofeo, convertible version of the Gran Turismo, obviously. What else? Some McLarens. We have the new 750S Coupe and, the Artura. So we got the 750S Coupe and the Artura. The new Aston Martin Vantage, which, whew, man, that is hot. Love what they did with the redesign on the new Vantage. Looks phenomenal in the classic shade of green. And then we've got the DB12 Volante, the Amira. Love that car, love Lotuses. What else? Ferraris over there. We got a 296 and Aroma and a G-Wagon. Nothing too crazy or new debuting. These are just from the dealerships. We've got the Rolls-Royce lineup, Cullinan, Ghost, Phantom, Spectre. Looks like they have a Dawn over there, which is now not in production anymore. And then we've got some Bentleys. Oh, that looks like the new generation of the GT, Continental GTC specifically over there, next to the outgoing model. And then some Lamborghinis, Huracan Spider and Revuelto flagship model. So quick look at the supercar gallery there, and then we've also got some of the Mustang Club vehicles out here. It looks like, Northern Mustang Club. Factory 5 Shelby replica to start things off there, and then we've got a GT500 Super Snake Shelby package, and then a New Edge Mach 1 Mustang. I actually was obsessed with this car. I wanted this as my first vehicle back in the day. Ended up getting a 2002 GT Mustang, but I was obsessed with the New Edge Mach 1 models that were sold in 03 and 04. Specifically, I looked at one in this shade of blue, actually. I forget what they called this color, but really wanted one of these with the shaker hood scoop and the additional visual flare on the outside and those specific wheels. That looks like a really nice stock example there from whoever brought that to the show. And then we've got a Fox Body Mustang, of course, and the King Cobra model from the Mustang 2 Gen, and a 69 Shelby GT500. Very nice. I don't think I've ever seen one in that shade of orange, but looks nice and mean. So a quick look at some of the vintage cars they've brought out here.